My phone buzzed on the old wooden desk, a sudden vibration that cut through the low hum of the street outside. I glanced at it, the screen dark, just a notification for some email I didn't care about. It was late, past midnight, but sleep felt miles away. I'd been at my computer for hours, chasing down a coding bug that was making my head throb. The apartment was quiet, just the city breathing outside my window. I lived alone, which was usually fine. Tonight, it just felt empty. I stood up, stretching the stiffness out of my shoulders, and walked over to the kitchen for a glass of water. The kitchen was small, just a narrow galley, and the glass of water was cold against my fingers. As I drank, my eyes drifted to the large window that looked out onto the alley below. Nothing there but brick walls and overflowing dumpsters, a dim street lamp casting long, distorted shadows. I finished the water, set the glass in the sink, and turned to head back to my desk. That's when I saw it. Or rather, I didn't quite process it at first. My reflection in the dark window of the living room, just beyond the kitchen doorway. It was me, standing there, head slightly tilted. But there was something off. The light from the kitchen behind me was bright, yet my reflection looked unnaturally dim, almost flat, like a cutout against the black glass. And the tilt of its head, it was just a little too pronounced, a mimicry that felt mocking. A knot tightened in my stomach. I paused, staring, my heart giving a small, unwelcome jump. I blinked, then shook my head slightly, trying to clear the lingering fuzziness from too much screen time. When I looked again, my reflection was still there, but it had shifted. Its head was now straight, mirroring my own posture. But its eyes, they weren't just reflecting the dim light from the hallway. They seemed to hold a deeper, colder glint. A spark of unease ignited inside me. I was just tired. That had to be it. My mind was playing tricks. I took a step forward, into the living room, towards the window. My reflection matched me, step for step, but its movement seemed smoother, less natural, like a shadow puppet perfectly synchronized, yet lacking the subtle imperfections of real human motion. It held itself a little too still when I paused, its gaze locked on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. It wasn't just my reflection anymore, it was something else wearing my face. My breath hitched. This was insane. There was no way. I must be overtired, hallucinating from exhaustion. I forced myself to walk directly towards the window, intending to touch the glass, to prove it was just glass and light, nothing more. As I approached, the reflection grew larger, filling more of the dark pane. Its face was identical to mine in every feature, the slight crook in my nose, the scar above my eyebrow, the faint stubble I hadn't bothered to shave. But the expression was alien. A subtle, almost imperceptible smirk played on its lips, and its eyes, those cold, cold eyes, held a knowing amusement. I stopped barely a foot from the glass. My hand hovered. The reflection's hand also hovered, perfectly mirroring my gesture. But the smirk widened, just a fraction. Its gaze dropped to my chest, then back to my eyes, as if assessing me. A cold dread seeped into my bones. This wasn't a trick of light. This was looking at me. I pulled my hand back sharply, a jolt of fear shooting through me. The reflection's hand retreated with the same unnatural swiftness. I took a step back, then another. The reflection mirrored me, always perfectly synchronized, always with that unsettling, knowing look. It was like looking at myself, but seeing a predator. My mind raced, trying to find a rational explanation, a trick of perception, a hallucination, a stress-induced visual anomaly. But the raw, undeniable feeling of being observed by something wearing my skin was too powerful to dismiss. I backed further into the living room, keeping my eyes fixed on the window. The reflection remained, its form shrinking slightly as I moved away, yet its presence felt more pronounced, more solid. It was me, but it wasn't. It was an echo, a distorted twin staring back from an impossible distance. I felt an urgent need to escape its gaze. I turned quickly, heading for the hallway, for the bathroom, anywhere without a reflective surface. As I spun, I caught a final glimpse of the window. My reflection was still there, but it wasn't mirroring my turn. It was simply standing, still and straight, watching me go, the smirk still playing on its face. It didn't move as I disappeared from its view. It just watched the empty space where I had been. Panic started to set in, a cold wave washing over me. This wasn't exhaustion. This was real. I rushed into the bathroom, flicking on the light, and instinctively looked at the mirror. Nothing. Just my own face, pale and wide-eyed, staring back. My chest heaved. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to shake off the terror. My reflection in the bathroom mirror was undeniably me, the normal me, showing my fear. But the other one, it had been different. A chilling mimicry. I left the bathroom, heart hammering, and headed straight for the front door. I needed to get out, even if it was just to stand in the quiet hallway outside my apartment. I fumbled with the locks, my hands shaking slightly. The click of the deadbolt felt loud in the oppressive silence of the apartment. I pulled the door open, stepped out, and closed it quickly behind me, leaning against it, breathing heavily. The hallway lights were dim, a faint buzzing from the fluorescent tubes overhead. It was empty. Safe. Or so I hoped. I stood there for a few minutes, trying to calm my racing mind. The image of that smirk, those eyes, was burned into my memory. It felt like something had been imprinted on the apartment, or on me. I rubbed my temples, trying to think rationally. There had to be a logical explanation. Maybe some kind of light anomaly. But the way it had looked at me... No, that wasn't light. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 10 minutes, I decided I needed to go back inside. I couldn't just camp in the hallway all night. Besides, what if it followed me out? The thought made a fresh wave of nausea hit me. I took a deep breath, steeling myself, and unlocked the door. Stepping back into my apartment felt like entering a different space, one that was subtly altered. The air felt colder, heavier. My eyes immediately darted to the living room window. It was just a dark pane now, reflecting nothing. The city lights outside, no distorted face, no unsettling smirk, just glass. I walked cautiously into the living room, my gaze sweeping over every surface. The room was exactly as I had left it. The remote on the coffee table, the pile of books, the unread newspaper. Nothing seemed out of place. But the feeling persisted. The apartment felt watched. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just my imagination, that the late hour and my tired mind had created a vivid illusion. I walked to my desk, sat down, and tried to focus on my computer screen, on the lines of code that had seemed so important just an hour ago. They now looked like meaningless symbols. My hands trembled slightly as I tried to type. Then I saw it again. Not in the window this time, but in the polished, dark surface of my monitor, reflecting the dim light from the desk lamp. My own face, staring back at me. But behind my reflection, just slightly to the left, was its face. The doppelganger. It was blurred, indistinct, like a smudge on the glass, but the cold glint in its eyes was unmistakable. It wasn't a full, clear image, but a shadowy suggestion, a peripheral flicker that made my stomach lurch. I froze, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't dare turn my head. I didn't want to see it clearly. I just stared at the reflection in the monitor, at my own terrified eyes, and the barely visible, malignant presence lurking just behind my shoulder in the reflection. It wasn't right behind me physically. It was in the reflection, in the mirror world, showing itself through the screen. The blurred shape in the monitor's reflection seemed to lean closer, its form solidifying just a fraction. The smirk, faint but terrifyingly real, reappeared. It was like a silent threat, a promise of something worse. It wasn't a ghost, not a spirit in the traditional sense. It felt more like a corruption, an invasive mimicry trying to take root in my reality. It was me, but wrong. Horribly wrong. I slowly, deliberately, reached out with my left hand and slammed the laptop shut. The screen went black, the reflection vanishing instantly. The apartment plunged into a deeper quiet, the silence now deafening. My heart pounded against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in my ears. I felt utterly exposed, vulnerable. It wasn't just a reflection anymore. It was everywhere. I pushed back from the desk, standing up quickly, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I needed to escape, not just from the apartment, but from the possibility of seeing it again, anywhere. My eyes darted around the room, scrutinizing every dark surface, every potential reflection. The glass of a picture frame on the wall, the shiny surface of the polished wooden table, the dark screen of the wall-mounted TV. Every dark patch seemed to hold the potential for its return. I grabbed my keys and phone from the desk, my movements jerky. I knew I couldn't stay. Not tonight. I stumbled towards the front door, my gaze fixed on the floor, avoiding all reflective surfaces. The fear was a cold, sharp blade in my chest. I just wanted out of the apartment, out of its reach. I reached the door, fumbled with the handle, and pulled it open. Without looking back, I stepped out, pulling the door shut with a solid click. I didn't pause in the hallway this time. I walked quickly, almost ran to the stairwell, taking the steps 2 at a time, needing to put distance between myself and whatever had entered my life tonight. I kept my head down, staring at my feet, avoiding the reflective sheen of the stairwell windows. I could feel its gaze on me, even without seeing it. It was everywhere now, in my mind, in the corners of my vision. A part of me, forever distorted. I reached the ground floor, pushed through the heavy lobby doors, and burst out into the cool night air. The street was almost deserted. I walked, not knowing where I was going, just needing to move, to be under the open sky, away from any dark, reflective surfaces, away from the mirror that had shown me a monstrous version of myself, a doppelganger that wasn't just a reflection, but a chilling presence waiting to step through. I kept walking, the city lights blurring around me, a silent scream building in my throat. I couldn't look back. I couldn't look at anything that might show me its face again. I just walked, under the vast, unreflecting darkness of the night sky, praying. It was enough.